All right, let's get this going. Today on our Profitable Team Leader Mastermind, we've got Charlie King with the Charlie King Group here. He's our guest. I want to jump right into it. We've got this recorded for anybody that's going to be watching this after the fact. And I just wanted to jump in. He's our first guest star on these series of Team Leader Mastermind. So thanks for being the guinea pig on our first one here.
No
And
worries. Thanks for having me.
let's jump into it. So these are geared towards helping team leaders and want to be team leaders really start to identify the areas of how they can become profitable, because it's one thing to be selling on your own, and it's another thing to move towards, okay, I'm a high producer on my own, I want to start a team. Typically the reasons people want to start teams are for working less and making more, and that's not
Right.
an easy thing to get to. A lot of team leaders end up still finding they're just doing as much, if not more, than they did before, and they're making the same amount of money. So we're going to really focus on digging in deep with these and just kind of learning about our team leaders that we're having as guests, and just what's working for them, what challenges they see, and just some of the things that they think they're really good at, to see if we can share some value with those that are watching. So
Sure.
Charlie, tell me a little bit about your team, when you guys started, and what you guys are doing currently.
Yeah. My name's Charlie King. I cover a lot of the Boston to South Shore, Cape Cod market, basically Boston down the coastline. I tell people. So I have a team of 9 full-time agents, including myself, full-time marketing coordinator that's on salary, and a virtual assistant. Um, I got in the business in 2011 in
Okay.
Boston by doing mostly rentals. 2012, when I worked at a small brokerage in South Boston for a few years. 2017, I took the jump and started my own brokerage. That's where I kind of learned to manage a little bit more, and just having people working with me. So that was for 2 years. We did pretty well, and then I joined Compass in 2019, and took the brokerage, took some of the people there with me. I'd say I've had different evolutions of where the team's been or agents working with me. But February of 2021 is probably where I became a lot more structured with how I run my team. I got into a team coaching program through Tom Ferry,
Okay.
and that's probably been the biggest game changer. So
So when you're starting a team, would you say structure is kind of like, if you don't know your
structure's huge. So for a while, I just had a bunch of agents working with me. I had a marketing person back then. But you want to be really structured, and it's it's like you said in your opening, if you want to just hire people, expect them to make money for you, don't provide any value, it's not going to work. So getting structure at different levels along the way is definitely what helps you grow and your team grow. I think the biggest thing you can do is you want to hire somebody that can take off little tasks for you that aren't necessarily income producing tasks. That should be your first hire.
Right. I assume that with that hire, that person that's taking tasks off your production, your personal production, that's also going to be taking tasks out of the team members as well, right?
Yep. Yeah. So how I would structure it is, I don't have like an assistant. I have the full-time marketing coordinator, and she does all of my stuff, the team stuff, and then each agent on the team is allowed to use her as well. So she'll do people's social media content, emails every week, listing sheets, you name it, everything marketing. So video, we're into a lot of video. Where I take and utilize the agents on my team when I'm building it is I use somebody as a production partner. So I bring an agent in. I'm still in production. So what I do is I bring an agent in on every single deal with me, whether it's a buyer, a seller, or a landlord or renter. And they kind of act as like my showing assistant, and they kind of run the show on that deal.
Okay. So you bring them in with you to work every aspect of it, but you're not
Yep.
just
Yeah. So for example, say we get a listing in Hingham, Massachusetts. I'll bring one of the agents in on my team. I'll pay them a percentage of the deal to run it, and then they're able to host all the open houses. They do the smoke inspections, home inspections. They're doing most of the physical stuff. I'm still negotiating it, but they're doing everything else.
Okay.
This also allows the agent the opportunity to host the open houses to generate business for themselves.
Right.
And it gives them experience if they're like a newer agent and learning stuff.
Okay. Do you do it on the buyer side as well?
Yep.
Okay. I think that's probably important, especially in this market. It's very tough to be a new or a greener agent or one that's struggled and figure out how am I going to get my offer, our buyer's offer accepted, right?
Exactly. And I think what it helps me a lot because it frees me up. So it's like my day spent trying to bring in business for the team, running the team, and negotiating. And then it's like the agents quickly learn showings, they learn the market, they learn how to interact. They're on all the emails with me. I'm bringing an agent whenever I go on a listing appointment who's going to work on with me. I'm bringing them in on that too.
Okay.
So
Oh,
it's good for them. Also, they make some money and gain experience. Well, if you're a newer agent, we all know how long it takes
right.
to get going.
Did all your team members come to you as new licensees or are they mixed?
Not everyone. No, a couple people. I'd say about half. A couple people have been working with me since like 2017.
Okay.
Um, and then a couple people have joined. One person was new, joined in 2020. Another person worked on a different team, and joined me after 4 or 5 months on the other team. So they were a newer agent. They didn't have much experience or hadn't been taught a lot. Then I've had a couple of people who've been in the business who just wanted more of the team support and structure.
Okay. So what would you say are some of the key aspects to why team members stay with you? It's one thing to get team members.
Yep.
Yeah, you can go out there and convince a new licensee to join the team fairly easy. Not that that's the
Yeah.
way you should be onboarding them because you should have probably a very extensive onboarding process. But you get team members. How do people stay on it? Why do they want to stay on your team? What are the key factors
So
that stickiness?
no, that's a good question, and you see a lot of volatility and people moving with teams and different things. And um, what I learned is you have to provide a lot of value. You have to treat yourself like a business. And how are you going to build the agent's business up?
Mm,
So we, my team, myself, I pay for coaching. So the team's getting coached every other week. They have access to the Tom Ferry network, all the webinars. They're on a team coaching call right now. Um, I provide a full-time marketing coordinator for them. I provide leads. I provide them the opportunity to work on my business. I have a team office, and we're just constantly just growing and practicing and trying to. You gotta really invest in your team, and you don't want to just hire to hire. You want to make sure you hire personality fits that all work well together, in my
right.
opinion.
So what does that process look like for you for hiring? Like what is the process of hiring someone for your team?
Um, I get a lot of people reaching out, and I become pretty specific with um I used to take people in all different areas, like of the state or whatever, or within the greater Boston area. Now I'm pretty specific where Boston, South Shore, Cape Cod, it kind of all blends together. Because I have people say they want to work in Marblehead. Like I can teach you how to probably be a decent agent or do some of the stuff. But if you're going on appointments or trying to get business, like I don't know, I don't know how to drive around Marblehead.
Right.
so so when I'm talking with people, it's like you want to find a team that you bring value to that person in certain locations, in my opinion. And as a team
Okay.
leader, if I want someone to help build the brand with the team and grow together, like it's probably not going to work a ton if we're in a different areas than what we focus on.
All right. So you're looking not only at what you bring to the table for them, but what they potentially bring to the table for you as far as locality goes. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I think mutually it needs to be a fit, and you can't force it. So
Right, right. Do you have a specific interview process you go through with like personality profile or anything like that? Or is it more
I've
like,
I've done the disc profiles and all that, but I kind of go off gut. I like having conversations like this. I like getting coffee with people.
yeah,
Um, I also like it when I'm not the one following up. I like it when I see an agent follow up. And so
gotcha, gotcha. So you don't drive that, like, hey, what you're doing, how to like where you're at right now. You want them to come to you.
I want them to come to me because it shows if they come to you when you're working leads, you're working everything, it's like they're going to follow up.
Right.
It's like if I really want them that badly, I'll let them know, but I want them to be the one to kind of be like, yeah, I want this too. So
Right. how do you look at growth for your team? Do you look at it and say like, you hire when the right person comes along, or you're hiring specifically like, we want to get to a certain number this year? How do you approach that with your business?
Yeah, I'm kind of going over this with my coach right now. Obviously you want to grow. The more people you can have for the team, in my opinion, like it can create even more opportunities for everybody else on it.
Mm.
But I think you get too caught up in being like, I want 4 more agents this year. You might hire just because you want to hit that number. I think for me, it's like I want to hire to fit what we're building, like culturally and like geographically what we're trying to do. So I have conversations a lot with people, but it's usually, I think someone's a good fit, I let them know pretty quickly. And then
Right,
if I think I'm not the right fit for them, I'm like, listen, my team might not be the best fit for you, but I can help you find. I know other teams that are looking for people.
right, right.
So big thing is too, I want someone who's coachable and willing to just learn, soak it in. So
So when you talk about you want someone that's coachable, what is
mhm.
your ultimate goal with a team member? I know some teams approach it differently from perspective of like, I want them to become a good team member versus becoming, an individual within your organization. Do you have any thought process behind like where you want them to be when they achieve the level of
Yeah.
success that you want?
So my thing is with everybody, I did this. I went to a small brokerage, left, started my own, you know what I mean? So if somebody's goal is to be a team leader themselves or be their own whatever mega team, they want their own brokerage. I said, that's good. I'll help you get there. So like if it's time to go and do something different, like no hard feelings. I did it because I think you're not people don't work on teams forever, pretty much. Maybe the industry's changing a little bit where it might kind of be a little bit more like that now, but if somebody's got a goal to be a team leader, then let them be that goal. You know what I mean? It's their career. And in the meantime, you're training them, you're showing them stuff, you're making money with them. So I think if somebody's goal is to go off on their own, then I wouldn't really hold that against them, in my opinion.
Right, right, for sure.
So
I mean, you probably look at it like I look at it, like you want someone that's hungry enough that wants to learn how to fish, not just be fed.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
I mean,
And I
you
think,
have a certain like, expectation on them, like, hey, obviously, part of the team is being given some leads, but I expect you to also be, building your own business and finding your own opportunities. Is that an expectation of yours for your team members?
yeah, 100%. Like we do, anytime I'm doing one-to-ones with everybody on the team, it's like we're reviewing all the time where business is coming from. We're really trying to track more accountability, like conversations,
Mhm.
calls, emails, text. And if somebody came to me on my team was like, hey, I kind of want to go do my own thing, I'd go through with them and be like, well, 60% of your deals came from our generated stuff. Might not be best, but if somebody's like, hey, 80 to 85% of my things came on my own, then they might be ready to go off on their own. So I wanted to act as like a mentor to some of these people and just advise them. Um, because again, I've left. You know what I mean? Like I've done it before. So I get if people want to try something new, but if people also want to stay on the team, that's fine too.
Right, right. I mean, you probably end up having people stay longer than they ever expected anyways, right? I mean,
Yeah,
typically, like I've seen team leaders look at it like, well, I don't want somebody that's so independent minded that they really want to go out on their own. Like they tell me right up front, like I only want this to be a 1 or 2 year thing,
right.
versus someone that just like, on the other side, it doesn't seem to have a lot of motivation, and you worry about if they're even working the leads that you give them the way that they should be. So,
Right, right.
there is a real balance there, and I think most of the time you're better off going with a person that's just got lofty goals that we know in reality of the markets and everything else that's going to take longer than expected no matter what.
Right. And I mean, some of the agents on my team too, it's like they're seeing this, the business is getting so complex.
Yeah,
There's
let's talk
so
about that because you said I
yeah,
think the future may look like where people stay on teams longer. Talk about that a little bit.
right. So business is definitely getting really complex. We're seeing marketing costs are sky high, technology. Um, you're seeing mega teams form across the country. you're just seeing kind of power in numbers now in terms for marketing and support. And I think also the newer generations, they want a little bit more of a work-life balance. So where they're happy giving up a little bit of money or giving up some stuff to have their weekends sometimes, or have a day here and there where the individual agent, you're acting as marketing, you're acting as account manager, you're acting as lead generator. So I think a lot of people are seeing being on a team to be beneficial in terms of, yeah, like you said, working less maybe a little bit, or just not as stressful having some of these tasks taken over. So I find the more pillars and more different things I can add with my team, the easier it is for agents just to kind of focus on being an agent, getting business, closing deals, and on to the next.
It's so true. So we were talking about that in a mastermind before this session this morning,
Mhm.
talking about how, like, literally, if you look at the worlds of Zillow and Realtor.com, and how many times they're changing their lead game from, no, we're pushing it towards referral fees. Now
Right.
you got Realtor.com that's pushing it back, saying, no, we're going to focus more on market VIP. So
Hmm.
we'll have less leads in the Opcity system. Like, why is that? They're like the kings of lead generation and spending on marketing, yet they can't even completely figure it out. So how do
Right.
we believe that an individual agent's going to figure out how to play in that world and know how to do it? Like,
I
that's
mean,
where I think the power of teams is going to come into play in the future. Is if you're from a team perspective, you can have the systems in place and all the automation and the follow-ups with the virtual assistants and that you can manage that from a team perspective. From
right.
an individual agent perspective, that's going to become extremely hard.
Also starting out as an individual agent is, in my opinion, near impossible now. Because it's like you're marketing to your sphere. Inventory is already tighter than it was pre-pandemic levels. And you have all these teams that are saying they're doing 40, 50, 60, 100 plus million a year. And here you are brand new and you're trying to compete with that. If you go and join a team as a newer agent, or even someone who's been in the business and you're only doing 5 to 10 deals a year, you might be better off joining a team. So it's power in numbers.
For
If you go
sure.
on a listing appointment and you're like, I sold 5 houses this year, and then my team goes on a listing appointment, we sold 62 homes. It's like that's going to stand out 9 out of 10 times probably to the seller.
Right.
So a
Right.
lot of it's becoming power in numbers, um, but also just the cost and the complexity and the marketing and everything you have to do now. It's like agents used to be, you can make a very good living and being an individual agent and doing stuff, and you didn't have to worry as much about the marketing and certain things. Now it's, you have to run yourself like a business. And if people don't see you out there or see you present, it's like they have no idea with who you are.
Yeah, yeah, and like I joke around about the fact, like 8, 10 years ago, you'd set up someone on a listing alert, and they'd be, "Oh, thank you so much for sending me those listings on
Right.
every day." And like now, people just know that that's not special anymore. That's not
Right.
that's
I try to do the opposite now. I actually don't set people up on alerts. I try to just handpick now to look at like we are paying attention.
totally agree with that.
So
Besides, they're not always like every consumer is bombarded with different marketing from every direction.
right.
So to think like they're gonna see that daily listing alert and actually look at it every day, is not always the case unless they're super hot and they've probably lost offers already on homes. And if they're not
Hmm.
at that point yet, they're probably breezing by your listing alert. So if you're not
Right.
calling them up and saying, "Hey, this property just hit the market, I think you'd be interested in," you're falling short. And
Right.
I think consumers are tired of the door openers too. It's the door
Yeah, they
opener
are.
generation of agents that are just like, let me know when you see something that fits.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
people, the
that's
whole
not
mindset,
service.
like you're saying. Yeah, it
Yes,
needs to
it's not
change.
service.
So,
Where do you see lead generation going, and just kind of from a future of, like, you're a team leader, right? And you're saying,
mhm,
like, okay, a certain part of my value and responsibility is bringing leads to the team.
yeah.
What do you look at that world right now as what's working, what's not, and where it's heading?
So we were we were probably like an 85, 90% sphere of influence team
Okay.
up until probably even in the last 12 months. And
Okay.
I started noticing that to create more opportunities, we had to invest. and a lot of lead gen. I've been always very, very good at working networks and working past clients and sphere of influence, and my team's pretty good at that. But I see how to create more opportunities, you have to invest into some different things. So, yeah, Zillow, we're invested in. We've done PPC. We use Curator, which is a great marketing website platform that does a lot of like blogging and social posts and email marketing. But where I see it going is kind of coming full circle back to basics a little bit. I mean, you got to have all those online pillars, but you really need to be calling your past clients, calling your sphere of influence, texting them, trying to get out and meet as many people as possible, go to networking events. Like I just joined another golf course just to try to meet some new people. So I
Right.
do well with the face-to-face interaction. So
Right.
um,
I think that's an important point. If the places you've gotten business in the past aren't producing right now, it doesn't mean that that's not still a good place to be. You just may need to add some new places to be.
exactly,
The
exactly.
equation, right?
Like I usually the person closest to the relationship, if you're legit, if people trust you and you're close to that person, you're going to get the business. So over some random online thing. So I think, um, yeah, being out and about in the community, being out and about at networking events, like whatever you like to do, like own it, but just keep trying to add. Is It's a numbers game. Like people are people. Obviously, it's relationships matter, but it's a numbers game in terms of getting in front of as many people as possible. So,
When you look hard at your sphere, right, you say that it
mhm.
boosts for a while and then it's fallen off a little bit. Would you say there's a common theme on why that is? Is it just that the generation that was your or that group that was your sphere was in that mode of buying and selling at the time, but now they're not?
Yeah,
Or
so I'm 35.
okay,
So I started when I was 24. So I was fortunate enough to help people rent places,
okay.
help people buy places in the city,
Mhm.
sell those places, help a lot of people buy in the suburbs. And I was actually talking to a mortgage lender today about this, where COVID accelerated a lot of my sphere to the suburbs earlier than
Okay,
it might have. So I've had some really good past years, the last couple of years, helping people sell in the city, go to the suburbs. And now what I'm noticing is some of those people in the suburbs, they kind of have like their 5 to 7 year home. And then city, I don't have as many people left as I did because it's accelerated the move.
right,
Um,
right,
so when I'm looking at it for me now, and last year I was helping a lot of my sphere also look at investment properties or second homes. Mortgage rates have been higher now, more volatility. So it's just like, where do we find more business? Um, what groups do we try to find listings from? Some of the developers I work a lot with too, they're kind of, they don't have projects right now either. They're kind of waiting to see what happens before they break ground. So I
right.
think we're in a market where I have to pivot. You know what I mean? Like my team, I have to pivot. I have to be like, all right, where's some of my personal business going to come from this year? So that's like just kind of revamping, be like, all right, I gotta go after this demographic, or I gotta go after these people. I gotta call these people again. And it's just you constantly are pivoting always. It's just like once you get comfortable doing something, you have to change it.
True, true, and that's an important point. So you probably got another 5 to 7 years before your sphere that produced so well
Right.
past 2 years comes back around.
Right.
Doesn't mean you should ignore
So
them. They should still be a part of your system.
oh yeah, there I'm reaching out to people all the time, but I think
But
um you have to always be trying to find people, find opportunities, and
right,
uh
do you based on that look for certain team members that bring a certain new aspect to your team as well? Like for instance, like a
definitely.
younger agent now that might be in the same boat you were
Hmm.
3 years
So
ago.
half my team's all like me. They all lived in the city or live in the city, and
Okay,
they're want to go to the South Shore, or live in the city, go to the Cape Cod or Martha's Vineyard kind of thing, or Nantucket. So yeah, I am constantly looking for someone in there that living in Southie or Charlestown or Dorchester right now, and then they have the same thing. So to me, the city feeds a lot, whether you're going south, Metro West, north, for where we live.
mm,
Um,
it's true.
so yeah, I'm constantly looking to kind of looking for similar avatars to myself.
Right, right. I
Um,
know when COVID happened, we were all looking out here in the central part of the state, because just
right.
for watching, I'm about 35, 40 minutes from Boston. You're
Hmm.
right close to Boston. So we saw a bunch of people come out from COVID and say, I can work from home now. I'm gonna buy a house in central Massachusetts that's far
Right.
cheaper than Boston. We've seen a little bit of the go back,
Yeah.
but it's not as much as I think a lot of people expected, where people would, after a few years, have to sell and move back towards Boston because they were commuting all the time. A lot of companies have adjusted. I talked to many clients that are just like, they have basically their employees now have to go back 1 or 2 days a week. So
Right. Yeah.
so they're like, I'll drive an hour and a half, 1 or 2 days a week. I don't care.
I think the two days, 1 to 3 days kind of thing. If people have to go back 4 or 5, you might see people. Um, but I think
and
a lot
that,
of companies, recruiting wise, are having a hard time getting top talent if they have to go to the office 5 days a week.
exactly. And that's really the challenges that we're seeing here in this Massachusetts market, as well as other markets across the country, is you don't have a lot of mobility going on right now. You don't have a lot of people moving in or moving out for jobs.
Right.
Even out here, we see a lot of the builders that didn't start construction in the winter,
Hmm.
because they're like, why am I going to put a foundation in the winter and fight the weather
Right.
when we don't know what the interest rates are going to be? So let's just wait till spring. There's a ton of like to be built, but they're not even started yet homes that are
Yeah.
on the market that are
Yeah.
just,
No, it's
and I probably would have done the same thing if I was a builder,
right.
like wait and see.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in this past, there's a lot of weird, volatile stuff going on right now in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
and in the
yeah.
country. So,
So how do
um,
you guys do anything specifically looking for motivation right now? Like, who's going to be motivated to do something? How focused are you on finding motivated?
yeah, so we've been breaking down subscribe. We started using Property Radar, which is pretty good for creating different lists and databases.
Called Property
Um,
Radar?
Property Radar. So what I've been doing is my team and I working with the VA and the marketing coordinator, kind of going through. They have some downsizing lists, potential downsizing lists that they pull for you.
Yeah,
Absentee owner list. We're thinking um, absentee owners might be more likely to try to cash out right now if they're not living there.
yeah,
We're finding people who live in the place, even if they're downsizing or have a lot of high equity. Common theme is, where am I going to go? so, so absentee owners, we're trying to hammer those pretty hard.
yeah. Absolutely, the owner of
Um,
multifamilies too. I think
right.
that's a hot one. I was just talking
So,
about it with you before this call, that in Worcester, on the multifamily end, you have a lot of owners that own a lot of property in Worcester. And they're just not seeing like, okay, the next 5 years, they're getting close to like exit strategy anyways.
right.
Not really seeing a lot bigger return over the next 5 years. So they're kind of like starting to say, you know what, maybe it is time to let some of these go.
Hmm.
Before this year, they were riding it high. They were like,
Yeah.
okay, it's up another 5%, it's up another 10%, it's up. They just kept watching it go. Why would they sell? Now
Right.
it's kind of reached its peak. It's kind of come off it a little bit. I think there are sellers that are just like, okay, now's the time to cash out.
Right. Yeah.
And
No, I mean, so we're trying to
yeah.
absentee owners. We're trying to really work.
And
Um,
this state's so pro tenant that if you're an
yeah.
absentee owner and you're not, you could be feeling the pain. Pain
Right.
is everything right now. If you can find people with some level of pain,
Hmm.
that's obviously gonna where you want to focus your attention. Right? We talked about in a other mastermind this morning, probates and divorce sales
Yeah.
and job relocations and absentee owners. Those are really, if the market ends up being down, let's say 30, 40% for sales volume this year, which I think it could be,
Right.
then who makes up that 60% that's still left?
Right.
A large of
Yeah.
those,
We're finding.
I mean, what are you
Yeah.
seeing for homes coming on the market? Are you seeing?
So one of our deals in Boston was they got relocated to New York for a job. We've had a probate deal. Um, One was now a builder, just working on it, was ready to sell. The other one's somebody cashing out on an investment property. So we haven't had many end users who are like, "Hey, I want to sell and move somewhere else right now."
Yeah,
Most of our listings have all come from a situation where the person like could move, like the person who moved from Boston to New York, like it was a job. They were flirting with renting it, but they were like, let's just this is my number. Let's see if we get it. And we got that.
Right,
So
right. The other area I've seen a little bit of movement and some people pop out of the woodworks is executive renters.
yeah.
They moved in for a job a couple years ago. They weren't ready to purchase. They're paying 3, 4, 5 grand for rent. At
Mhm.
least out here, Boston, it's probably 5, 6, 7 grand.
Right.
And they're just like, no, it's time to buy,
Yeah.
and they're not going to wait any longer. We've seen a few of that, a few of those.
Yeah. We've been a little opposite actually.
Oh,
So,
okay, okay,
with our city, so we do about 40 to 50 rentals a year still as a team. And what we're seeing is rent prices are very high in the city, but they're still not as high as mortgage payments are now. So,
right.
um, so people are being like, you know what, I'm just going to rent another year and see how this all plays out. So,
Gotcha. So that's where it's just important, whatever market you're in, is to really look at your data.
yeah,
Like
everything's hyper
look at a
local.
cross reference of what is the rent versus what is the mortgage.
Right. Right.
And like if you're going to rent, for instance, in Central Mass, if you're going to rent a single family home, you're not willing to live in a 3-decker, the rent is higher than the actual mortgage is right now. Which
Yeah.
is why, like, we had had a buyer that I'm covering for one of my team members this weekend. They went to an open house. There were 60 people at it on Saturday and 40 people at the open house on Sunday on a $320,000 listing.
Yeah.
So but it's that choice. I bet half of those people are renting somewhere. They're just like, no, tired
Right.
of renting. It's equal. I don't care about the interest rate. We're talking equal payment. So those are important factors to look at, and and have experience in. And if you're not experienced in the numbers and like looking at this stuff deeply, then it does make
Mhm.
sense to be on a team. And that's a lot
Definitely.
of the factors too about being on a team is selling, how you're going to keep your eye on the ball and keep the business coming in no matter what.
Yeah. As a team leader, I try to daily or at least a few times a day. Or sorry, a few times a week. I try to remind everybody like know mortgage rates, know what's going on in the stock market, know what's just going on, like cost of rent versus buy. Like just you got to factor in all these things now with people because there's so much going on. So it's like know your scripts, know the amount of homes on the market, know what when pending, all of it. And for an agent that they can't handle like there's a lot of different things going on, so sometimes being on that team allows you just to be like, all right, somebody's telling me this and I can still just focus. But if you're an individual and you have to know all this on your own, plus do your marketing, plus do your paperwork, it can be overwhelming.
So, question on their database, your team
Yep.
members database. Do you manage their database for them? Like you want them to bring their contacts into your world so you can help them manage that?
Yeah, so they bring all that in, and then we Jen, who's my marketing person, we send out emails once or twice a week that she's doing on their behalf. It's their
That,
job to text and call, follow up right now.
that's extremely important. I think if a team leader doesn't really access all their team members' spheres to be able to work them all together as a unified team,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work.
No.
Yeah, because
No, no.
they're never going to do it. You could give them the tools, you could give them the CRM. They're just not going to understand the value of it until they've seen the value show up in deals that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
When we started when I brought on Jen, my team member's business went like this.
Yeah.
Because she runs some of their social media as well.
Okay.
But she was doing email marketing consistently, running social, and all this business is lead generating and marketing. So
Right.
you're not doing
So,
that, you're going to be very inconsistent.
so if there was a top producer on that's thinking about joining a team, what would be their first move? Would you say it's hiring as an
Yeah,
admin or marketing person?
I would hire a marketing admin or somebody like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I see a lot of people talking about micro teams in that sense now too. And there was someone that spoke about that at the convention I was at with Rio. It was micro teams. It was basically having if you're not ready to take that next step and having 3, 4, 5 team members, that you start with that staff person, that marketing person, then you
Right.
have a showing assistant.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I think building the back end, the pillars, is more important than bringing on agents right away.
For sure. One more question. How do you maintain the culture of your team? from a perspective of just that family feeling or that real
Yeah.
culture is tough right now. Because people don't want to, like, we become such an isolated society. How are you managing that?
Yeah, so I bought an office last March, and that's made a huge difference. Even
Okay.
people are in here pretty much Monday through Thursday. Fridays can be a little light because people are working or just whatever. But it's great. And again, I think when you're building your team, you want to make sure people's personalities fit.
Mm,
So you want to, does it happen all the time? No. But if you think somebody's not going to be a good fit with half the team, it's not going to be worth it in the long run, in my opinion. So you want to make sure you're getting personalities that fit and mesh with one another. One thing I don't really want to do is I don't want to hire an agent if someone has the same sphere, because I'm big into sphere marketing.
mhm.
I don't want to bring in that agent if they're going to overlap with one of my established agents.
Gotcha. Meaning,
So
what would,
so
what would be an example of that be? Like the same town or?
not so much the town, but if they have the same general like network, um, group of friends, do a lot of the same stuff, all in the
Okay.
same age, I don't want to bring them in because
Okay.
part of what's made our culture, I think, work is we don't really compete with each other in terms of our databases. So
Okay.
that way we can collaborate and be
Gotcha.
very open with each other. So
Gotcha. Well, that's probably an important point for this because I know a lot of times teams tend to grow by, I've got a good friend that wants to get in the business and wants to be on the team too. That's
I've had a
probably,
few of those, and I say to the agent, I go, I don't think that's a good idea.
that's
Or
good.
on the team.
That's good stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Just because it's like what we're doing, a lot of teams aren't. So it's like, why, if this person's going to do it, it's going to then take some of your business away.
Mm,
And I'm like, if you're going to put in the work, it's like, I want you to succeed. You're here first. So, so I just think it's just fitting, building stuff that fits. It's like, I mean, I'm a big Patriots fan. Say what you want about Belichick, but Belichick over the 20 something years has been very good at team building. And it's
right.
even like Brad Stevens with the Celtics now. He's like finding different pieces to fit. So
Mhm.
you don't want all the same, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Love it. Love it.
So
All right, let's wrap this up. Anything else you
sounds
want
good.
to share before we end this? Any?
No, I'm good. I'm kind of losing my voice. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm fighting a cold myself. I'm surprised I haven't sneezed. I only sneezed once.
right.
But yeah, no, this has been awesome. Just keep following us, profitableteamleader.com. We've got another great team leader, Mike Martin, coming up next week. So join us again next week at 12 p.m. at profitableteamleader.com. Thank you, Charlie. This was
You're
awesome.
welcome.
And look forward to the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks
All
for
right,
having
take
me.
it easy. All right,
See
bye.
you.